It's been a busy week on and off the field, so this show's going to be crowded. Let's hope these conversations don't get hijacked on this week's episode of the Indie Bar Report podcast. We're back again, episode number 282 of the Indie Bar Report podcast, and I gotta be honest, if Ryan doesn't improve the living conditions he's in, I may have to contact my agent because this week is going to be a fun one.
Take it up with the podcast owner. It's you, my guy.
Well, look, see, I didn't mean it that way.
Oh, my God. Dude, where do you want to start with this? I mean, that's topic one, I assume.
Yes, I like how we're actually being efficient this week. We're jumping right into this new Oakland update. No pillow talk or nothing. Just right into it.
Cracking alcoholic beverage.
He's cracking a cold one because we're talking Ballers
focused.
Baseball, boys.
Immediately sidetracked to pat ourselves on the back about being focused and crack a beer.
As you recall from last week's episode, we mentioned that Micah Franklin got fired. And we were like, oh, well, the organization's saying that they just wanted to go in a different cultural direction. They needed a change of pace and a shift. And that was on Thursday when we recorded it. And we thought we were all good. And then we woke up on Friday. We're like, hey, wait a minute. Look, an agent is requesting that her players be released or traded from this team. And so it became a real fun Friday. To bring you up to speed, it was Lonnie Murray, who was actually married to Dave Stewart. Fun little thing there. But she has 4 players that were on the Oakland Ballers team. That would be Trevor Halsema, Austin Davis, Miles Jefferson, and Kelsey Whitmer. Obviously, the last 2 are the bigger 2 names, particularly that last name. She requested that all 4 of her clients either be traded or released because of the way that the team was handling certain off-the-field and on-the-field issues. One of those would be that there were some property crimes involved in the housing that was allegedly different upon delivery than was promised. Also, there was an incident, I should say, involving Miles Jefferson and his, I believe it was thumb. It was that it was a torn tendon, but they were saying, oh, it's just swollen, don't worry about it. They never really did much about it. And then eventually, after a month of doing nothing, he paid for an MRI out of pocket, and they're like, hey, you tore a ligament in here. Your season's done. You're going to need surgery, brother. And so then he left and went back home. These are all things that Murray is alleging and claiming. After going on this, discoveratory mission on Twitter, she put it all out in a thread. We'll link that thread in the show notes. If you want to take a look at that, the show notes, of course, on the website, indiebarreport.com. Got to get those plugs in. The San Francisco Chronicle picked this up and then put out 2 articles in there that more or less just went into detail on each of the things mentioned on Twitter. Also mentioned some potentially sexist remarks made by one of the members of the Ballers coaching staff. When asked about this, supposedly Micah Franklin was one of the guys that were trying to actually address these concerns, handle these concerns. And when he got fed up with nothing being done, he went directly to ownership. And then shortly after there, he was told to leave the team. In other words, fired. So there's a whole slew of things there. Some more minor issues were ongoing issues with lights being in the batter's eyes at Ramundi, as well as money being docked from paychecks to go to the clubhouse manager. Now, normally that's kind of on the guy, so I'll pitch in money and then tip the guy. However, some guys think that they're being docked money out of the paychecks in order to pay the guy's salary, which would be not great, boss. And so there's a slew of things going on that front. Flip side, they also got a hold of JT Snow, who's not with the team, but is still technically under contract with the team. He's supposed to be one of the coaches. He had, I believe, it was hernia surgery. There's another San Francisco Chronicle article with all this in there. Both Chronicle articles will be linked in the show notes if you want to read those. He did mention that Jefferson was having an issue with his thumb, and he did say that in my experience with injuries, as being Snow, that it could be a tendon issue. You should get it looked at, and that was just about as far as it went. And he did confirm that there were issues with housing where guys were being stuffed 2 or 4 to a room when that was not supposed to be the planned case to begin with. However, he did back ownership's reasonings for firing Micah, saying it wasn't because Micah went to ownership that he got fired. It's more that there were larger philosophical differences between the coaches that make up the staff and the organization. And Snow even went as far to say as if Micah was back, then he wouldn't be back. So it seemed like a one or the other type of thing there. So it does lend a little bit of credence to the claim of him getting fired for reasons that aren't related to off the field problems. So there is that there. Oakland also released a statement. It essentially addressed each of the points raised by Murray. It feels more like a spin. I'll be pulling that up in just 1 second to read that statement here, because it is a very long statement. I will say that. It'll also be linked in the show notes there. For just a point of reference here, the Chronicle articles came out a little bit later after both Twitter posts. Essentially,
so they knew. Yeah, they were getting ahead. Yeah,
they knew about it. It appears the Chronicle probably almost certainly heard from Murray, then reached out to the Ballers for comment. The Ballers put this out while the article is being finalized. The typical damage control thing. The gist of this statement here, because this is a very lengthy statement, it should not have been a tweet. It should have been an actual press release.
But I have suspicions they didn't want to draw a ton of attention to it because they didn't put it other places.
Exactly. They address each thing bullet point by bullet point. We'll just give you the general summary here. And the first block is essentially saying that we respect privacy of staff and players. That's why they don't publicize the reasons for their transactions. Second point is housing. They mentioned that they provide housing, not that they're required to, because they wanted to. And while they initially had 2 adjoining houses that they had players in, they received feedback from the players that was too cramped. And last month, now meaning July, they added an additional house and moved guys in there. Player safety, they do acknowledge some property crimes that impact the players, and they have since coordinated with the Oakland Police Department as well as the Alameda County Sheriff's Department to ensure more safety around those accommodations, both old and new. Roster changes, they more or less just address that, look, the agent did want these players traded or at least off the team. They honored those requests and got 2 of them traded. 1 went home, and then we're still waiting to figure out what happens with Kelsey. She is kind of the outlier at this point, but she is off doing USA baseball stuff, so it could very well be that goes on for a while, call it another 2 weeks, then all of a sudden we're halfway through August, and you give the old, oh, well, we both decided she's pitched a lot this year. It's better for her to just, take it easy the rest of the way and come back fresh next year and part in the offseason when there's less attention to it. That could very well be the case. It could also be that she comes back and pitches for him. It could be that she finishes USA baseball and then just doesn't come back at all. That situation's still in the air, so we will end any speculation about what will happen with it there. But yes, they traded the other 2 players there, and then they finally addressed Jefferson's injury. He has to be released because the injury was season ending. That's their party line. They're not going to comment on any medical treatment for people who aren't on their team, which is interesting there. They said they have access, meaning baller players have access to a team trainer and team doctor. If the player needs to see a specialist, they work with the player to arrange and navigate all required insurance approvals. The facts and timeline surrounding Miles' injury and treatment are being investigated internally. If this inquiry results in finding gaps in our process or procedures, we will adjust them accordingly. However, our current understanding of the facts and timeline of how our training staff and medical staff respond to the injury are in step with best practices and standards. We wish Miles the best while navigating his recovery. And then they go ahead and they stand by their decisions, yada, yada, yada. Baseball for Oakland, yada, yada, yada. That's basically how that goes. So, that's a lot to take in. We threw a lot at you there. So the general summary is Micah gets fired. We believe it's because it's differences between him and the organization. Then it comes out that it may be because he was fighting for some players. And then we get more information that basically says Oakland bit off way more than they could chew. It bit them then in the ass. Micah got fired possibly for staking up players, but most likely because he just doesn't really fit with the rest of the staff and the organization. and the team is trying to kind of hand wave the fact that someone's car got stolen, someone tried to break into a house players were in.
There was a robbery at gunpoint.
Oh, allegedly. That too. Yeah, it was alluded to, I should say, in the one thread here from the agent that there may have been a armed robbery at gunpoint, or at least attempted. So,
all right. So
that's a lot. Ryan, you talk for a while.
If you're listening, buckle up because we're going to be on this for a while. So, because it's a fascinating story because it's got everything. It's got the baseball. It's got controversy. It's got conflicting reports. It's great. So
hell, it even has a little bit of sex in it because of the pillow talk comment.
Saucy.
It's selling now.
Let's first establish. So we got basically 4 sources on things right now, like public sources, which are we got Lonnie, who, in my opinion, she is regarded as legitimate throughout the industry. She's been around a while. I do think she can be a little bit extra. I think every agent can be a little bit extra. So, like, you're always ready for a little extra seasoning to be put on something that she's saying.
Yeah. But agents are supposed to fight for their people. So I fully expect that, though.
Yes. That's the job. Right. Exactly right. JT, who, frankly, I don't think has a ton of reason to bullshit. Sorry for language, but like, I don't think he doesn't need the organization like that. Like I think he's just kind of rolling off the cuff. He seemed a little off the cuff in that interview. I'm surprised he said the him or me thing, basically. That's crazy.
Yeah. No, he definitely comes across as very transparent and it seemed very candid. So I trust what he's saying.
So then we have the organization, which has every reason to be smoke and mirrors. Like I'd say about any organization situation. I've been critical of Oakland in the past. That's not specifically critical of Oakland. It's just, if you're in a firestorm, I can imagine that you're putting out the PR statements and everything. And nothing is going without calculation before saying it. And last, we got Susan Slusser, by the way, who is a very good journalist. Like well-respected journalist. Like she is, or she was, I forget which one, but I think she might be the VP of like the Baseball Writers Association. Like she is like up there. Like she's a local reporter, like based out of local reporting, but like she is very talented and very well regarded. So that's noteworthy as well in this. So I'm approaching this as sourcing A and B is JT, oddly, and Susan. Yeah. And then everything else is potential detail and going from there. So from there, we got a range of topics that we can hit. I mean, is there anything you want to, I got the housing topic, the injury topic, the salary topic, the safety topic, the miles topic, like
just the possible sexism from the organization topic.
Oh God. Right. So I don't know. I guess in no particular order, we'll go with this. I think on the manager thing, we'll weave through everything, but I think let's talk.
Yeah. I was going to say go manager first, and then we can go through it in the same way that the Ballers tweet did.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to Micah Franklin, something was off, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay. I've talked to some sources around the thing, but not enough for me to speak on it publicly without giving people away. But I can say just from reading what's in front of us, JT just came out and was like, well, yeah, it was him or me. So something wasn't right. Like it sounds like it was there was some personality clash there. This is his first indie ball job. And I think we kind of talked about this before. It didn't work out. Yeah. There was a conflict there. I think some players were tight with him. I think some players were not tight with him. That's how that goes. That's not unexpected. I think that is kind of, I don't know if he was let go because of this. I suspect he wasn't. I suspect they wouldn't have done this if they knew more drama was coming or would come from it. I just don't see them making that move. They're very PR conscious typically.
Yeah. And they've already had enough blows in the public arena that they don't need this on top of that.
Exactly. So I suspect this was a move that was being made independent of what happened. And then this separate but somewhat connected wheel started spinning. So that I don't have many thoughts on that. Because we kind of went over it before, but I do think that's at least where this connects. Do you have any further?
I would agree with that. I also think a lot of this staff being put together could have been done a little bit better. They lost the one coach before the season started, and then they added somebody else in late. It felt very much, just judging off of names, they had 3 former major leaguers on there, that they were going for more name appeal to draw in the fan base as opposed to guys that know what they're doing and then trying to build, a fan base around that manager. Like we've seen realistically in other markets. I mean, George Samus doesn't really have much name appeal, but in St. Paul, he has a lot of brand appeal there. That's the case for a lot of markets. So I think going at least with a manager that would have had more name appeal, and then if you want to sprinkle on Aaron Miles here or whomever else there to draw people in would have been fine. But it felt like a very amateur staff in the sense of they just don't have experience and they didn't really think about staff cohesion. They just kind of went for, ooh, this is a name and he wants to be here, so we'll go with him and then we'll figure out the details later on. And right. I think honestly, I'm not even sure if I'm trying to figure out how I word this so that way it makes sense. I think it more has to do with the fact that it's just another victim of trying to do too much, that they have so few people in the early going that they weren't able to give every topic the time it deserved because they had 5 other fires that were going on at the same time. So they're like, okay, we got a manager. Good. Let's go get a pitching coach because we got to go secure this field. Oh, we just lost the field. We got to go get another field. We got a pitching coach now. Great. And it's just a lot going on for how many people they had on staff at that point. So I think it's just another thing as this whole situation seems to be, where they promised a lot, try to do too much, and now we're seeing what happens when you're not able to give the time that these hires need to these hires.
And I'll skip ahead slightly in my note here because every single one of these issues we're going to discuss, I think, stems from basically a 2-part issue, which is also a 1-part issue, which is a lack of experience here. A lack of experience on the ownership piece, a lack of experience on the coaching side, a lack of experience in a lot of roles in that front office, honestly, other than like Tyler, who we've talked to, who's front of the pod, who's in baseball operations. And even what he talked about with us was a lot of what was going on preseason, at least, was, not necessarily involving him. Yeah. So that is one concern. That's a concern at any point, especially for a new team, in a situation where issue number 2, the thing that keeps being brought up is, well, it's an organization that's trying to do a lot in a little bit of time, and this will happen sometimes. Like, that's the explanation of it. It's like, hey, you're trying to hurry up and get this thing done. That's not a reason. Like, that is, no one forced you. No one put a gun to your head. This wasn't a robbery going to your player housing. Nobody forced you to set up a team right now. I suspect you did, and I suspect you did because you wanted to cash in on the Oakland A's thing and possibly have a documentary out of it. But that means your own selfish wants and desires. I'm sure Pioneer League could have waited a year. I don't think Pioneer League was like now or never. So it was a selfish desire of ownership that has caused these issues, and not having someone experienced enough to say, hey, before you announce the field you're going to play at, make sure all these boxes are checked. Nope. You just get excited. You announce it and you go, uh-oh, wait, no, change plan. That's happening a lot. I'm excited to announce this manager. Oh, wait, shoot. Do we really think about how this looks? Do we need more experience? Like, we have this housing. Well, have we properly checked it, vetted it, made sure everything's good, made sure it's what we think it is? Well, no. Like that, like somebody who has been in a indie ball front office will tell you, check everything because it's a garbage fire. Like that's what has driven me nuts about Oakland for a long time.
There's just 2 points I want to go because I do want to keep it like on the rails, keep it organized because I feel like just due to the nature, I do want to keep it organized. But there are 2 building points I want to have said before we move on to that, which is 1, it was year 1, guys. You have the most goodwill in year 1.
Mm-hmm.
You have everything going for you. You don't have to promise the moon in year 1. You can go simple and basic and easy in year 1 and then try to go bigger. Now, I'm not going to say you should have stayed at Laney and then said, oh, you will move to Ramundi or a more permanent thing like a year or 2 from now, because you do have the problem that the Frontier League is very aware of, which is we're not going to put a team in one facility just to move them to another facility 3 years later, because now you're creating havoc in a fan base and you're asking a lot of them to go to a different location now. Mm-hmm. It only works when that fan base is built in for 20 plus years, and they're not being asked to go to Patterson. But
right.
So that's one thing. So I'm not gonna say you should have went there first, but that being said, you didn't have to promise a bunch of stuff early on. You could have just went basic, and then in year 2 unveil some of that stuff once you vetted it and you had a plan worked out and everything was in motion. And yeah, sure, you're risking it leaking out and you're risking losing your big surprise thing. But let's be real. If it leaks out, what's the problem here? You're building anticipation for it, A, and B, only 1 or 2 people are leaking it. Typical local news, in which you're saying, hey, great, you just got free promotional work. Or someone like us where it's only the nerds are listening. So I don't mean to offend the people listening, but come on guys, let's be real for a minute.
We're all in the weeds here, friends.
Exactly. If you're still engaged, I mean, hats off to you. Keep listening. But you know what you're about. But yeah, it's the nerds are probably new. How half the people are probably in the know already, and we're late to get it out there. We're just getting a reaction when we mention it. But yeah, so that's the first half. And the second half, what I just want to say is it goes back to a thing I said a few months back when Oakland first started having problems at the very beginning of the season, which is it feels a lot like this organization is running for a 6th grade class president, where you're saying, we're going to have half-day Fridays. Every Monday, there's going to be free donuts for everybody. We're putting a pool in on the roof. We're going to eliminate homework. Tests are going to be no more than 10 questions and only happen, once every other month. You're promising stuff that, frankly, even if you had all the resources and ability, they're just, frankly, out of your control to promise. You can't promise it because you just don't have any ability to deliver on it. And so it just keeps coming back to that for me, where it's I don't know, and I hate to speculate on ownership itself, but it feels more or less at best, they just don't have any idea what they're doing, but they know how to build hype. So they're just going to keep doing that because at least, you avoid the negative. And that concerns me greatly. When you just have this many problems that keep popping up in a high profile setting and no real answer to them. And part of the thing is too, some of the problems aren't necessarily unique to Oakland, at least not entirely. But when you command the spotlight for every move you make, that means you're going to get the negative hit as well as the positive hit. Right. And once you have a few negative ones, it takes twice as many positives to overcome it because everyone remembers that negative hit a little bit more than the positive one. And when you haven't built up any goodwill to people really all around, with the possible exception of a couple of people really pissed off at the Oakland A's, you don't really tell me why I should give you the benefit of the doubt. So those are just some of the points I thought of immediately.
Yeah, and we'll get right back to the issues here, but in general, I think it's there's trying to figure out the best phrasing of this without being too loaded with it. This is a long list of avoidable issues, and I get it's growing pains. I understand that, but you've chosen the environment that you're going to have these growing pains in. I don't know. That's kind of where I fall on it. I'm a little. Well, we can continue through. I mean, the housing we kind of touched on there. You can't have that. I mean, they are not the only team with housing issues. Basically, every team is most teams are really struggling on housing. It's housing that many guys with the budget that any ball teams have. Let's not overlook how difficult that is. But a lot of it is. It's made more complicated when you're in an area like they are. I mean, Lexington, the area that the Lexington ballpark is in, isn't great. So we knew we had to look creatively. And it took having deals with apartment complexes. That's, it's not easy. And then it's okay, where's the furniture coming from? Do you have to supply the furniture? Do you not? These are all things that, again, experience can answer. However, it sounds like some of these situations did drag out a while. And it's well, what was only when you got called out? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's concerning. And I've said before, I think a big difference maker for the future of indie ball is going to be the way players are treated. So it's just a dangerous precedent to set either way. Because at a certain point, like, two teams offer you the same thing, you're going to go to a place where you might have a better place to be, whether that's the physical environment or the coaches, and the environment they create, but whatever. But so I'm not going to overly harp on that because that's an obvious issue. It's not like, what else am I going to say about that? Like, you mess up the housing situation, but it's also, it does seem like, some experience could have helped the refrain, I guess. But anything that you have on that one? I mean, it's frustrating also because safety was, it's Patterson is what it is.
Yeah.
It's tell me time and time again how safe it is, only to find out, like, when, like, in Patterson, I can look up the crime stats, my guy, like, I see it. Tell me time and time again that Oakland's safe, Oakland's great. And then, it just quietly comes out that you've been saying that while knowing that apparently a player, according to the agent, was robbed at gunpoint. And at least at minimum, they're having housing safety issues. Like,
at the minimum, someone tried to break in and take what stuff they had and stole their car.
Yeah, it's like going out of your way to, it's almost like, then don't talk about that. Like, don't go out of your way to be like, it's safe. Like, I know that the narrative became it's unsafe. Well, homie, it sounds like it is. Like, so either they're wrong, in which case, oh, really? Are they? Or don't lie to people. Like, I don't know.
That's the thing. Like, I wonder partially if the housing issue became a problem because they had to switch where the ballpark was last minute. So maybe you have a deal for housing in one area and not the other one, but that could just be me trying to be generous to them. Because it feels like housing is housing here, right? Like, all these guys got a way to get there to the field. So, like, who cares where it is? Mm-hmm. But, like, I get it. You have to manage expenses. Also, because as far as running, teams go, California teams are going to be among the most expensive to run, just due to player cost. So I get it. You got to save where you can. That said, though, like, if your players don't feel safe going home after the game, like,
it's a problem.
What are we doing here, right? Like, if they drive to the game and they're like, man, I hope my car is here when I get back. What does that say? And, like, there's clearly, like, there was a lot of inaction here because I don't think someone got robbed at gunpoint, had their house broken into, and their car stolen all in the same night or even in the same week. Right? So that tells me the incident happened. The players probably reported to the police and then turned around and told the team about it. Mm-hmm. So they were made aware of it and they just were like, we'll get around to it.
Right.
So, like, what's happening there? And, like, yeah, a lot of teams have housing issues, but how many teams have the issue of their players being the victims of crime?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I honestly, Lexington maybe, but I don't know how it is now. But if
it's not happening in Gary, Indiana, why is it happening here?
Right. Well, and it's expensive to put a team in Oakland, but also you chose to put a team in Oakland. Like, I don't know. Like, this was specifically the owners put it there because of the location. So
because we're for Oakland, right?
Yeah. Moving past that again.
Yeah. Going
the salary question. I will say I'm acquainted with teams that take money out checks for the clubby tip. Yeah. Now that said, I don't know why they suspected that it was paying his salary and not tip. That's interesting. The fact that they changed their policy on that makes me wonder if they were onto something. I have not been able to find any reasoning for why they thought that, though.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just they went through so many other things. They're like, they're probably doing this too, and then it just became wildfire.
Right. So I don't know, but that's all I have on that.
Yeah. The roster movement here.
Yeah, I mean, I credit, I guess, for making the moves that they were, they said they would make or they were asked to make. They are technically under no obligation to do that.
Yeah, and they did it anyway, so credit there. But,
yeah. Other than that, I mean, so we'll go to the injury, and then I got like one more. But the injury, it doesn't sound good. Especially when you put in JT Snow talking about how they didn't have like a trainer available at like spring training. It just seems like a lack of attention to detail on things that impact the players. More of a high, like if it's not actively affecting, the brand at this point, like it sounds like they weren't really paying attention to it. That's not, there's almost nothing to say on it. It's bad. Like there needs to be better. There's so many people who are like, oh, like I didn't know, that's a shame to hear that happened. There seems to be a lot of people being like, oh, I didn't know it was that bad, or I didn't know you didn't see anybody. It's like, you were supposed to track that. Like the moment there's an issue, it's supposed to be tracked to the minimum until it gets to the training staff. And if not past that, especially because that's an employee who's injured, and then you're going to have to deal with the workers' comp. So you better be paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Talk about a headache of a workers' comp case coming, but I don't know how you even end up there. Like, I don't know. If I'm cards on the table, I'm trying not to make it sound like I'm putting Tyler on blast, because I am not certain what capacity Tyler's even being used in for. There's a lot of different iterations of baseball operations. I think this was not his clubhouse to run. I just, knowing the dynamics that I had even my brief time in Lexington, I don't see a world where a guy has a beat up hand and I'm not checking in. But even just from a common sense availability thing, like even if you don't care about the person, even if you're not tracking it for like any other reason, like literally, do I need to sign another player? Like, so I don't know. It adds more questions, because in my experience, Tyler's a pretty reasonable dude who knows what he's doing. So it makes me wonder who's doing what and what's going on with it. So I don't know, that I don't have a ton of that, because I also don't love to throw out question marks about people's health. And there's a lot he said, she said, and that's still no facts. So it's still hard.
Yeah.
Last, go ahead if you have injury thoughts.
I really don't have much. I just think of it as like, you would think the trainer would be following up on it. That's my big thing here. Like, and then supposedly, I believe it was in the article, the longer one, not the one from about JT Snow, but the other one about the free agent, where he goes to see the team doctor before a game. They're sitting in the stands. He's like, oh, well, you're going to need to see a different doctor about that, 'cause that doesn't look good. And it's like, that's your team doctor? Like, oh, go see someone else because I can't help you with that? Like, that's not a good thing at all. Like, that's not a good answer.
I'm hesitant on that one, because that's a weird situation too. It's approaching somebody before the game. Like, they might also be like, obviously I'm not at an exam table and I'm not looking at this. Like, so who knows exactly? But the fact that, there is, I don't know if he was supposed to, I guess it's on him to say something like Miles, but it's also kind of on the doctor. Like, you have the information in your head now, like you kind of do have to do something with it. Like, it's like being a mandated reporter in a way.
Yeah.
So this falls on a lot of people, I think.
In fairness, the quote from the article is, after trying to play through the injury, Jefferson said he approached a team doctor in the stands before a game in July, and quote, she said I needed to talk to a different doctor because she felt something was wrong with my hand, end quote.
And hand injuries are one of the ones that, I'm trying to think I think every hand injury I've had, I have ended up at a specialist. So that again it sounds weird, but it does track. The problem is that nobody seems to have the accountability on the follow up, and that seems to be kind of all over the place.
And so the problem is you don't have that.
Part of it. I hate to point the finger this direction, but also some of it is on Miles. You're a grown man. You need to speak up for yourself, and you need to make sure that you are getting. It's your body, it's your career. Like, you do need to be speaking up on it. I understand the hesitancy. I understand being like, well, nobody's talking to me about it. But at a certain point, he was telling other people that was bad.
Yeah, at one point, he told his agent that the pain, I can't manage the pain anymore. And it's like, well, you got to this point, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
if you're in you're in that situation, take a step on back. You'll very likely get another gig, or else if you don't, it probably was going to happen anyway. It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least then your hand or whatever works appropriately when it comes time to get another job.
Yeah. And like, he asked JT, and JT was like, you may want to get that looked at. Right. So like, you had someone else be like, I've had histories with that. You're going to want to look at. But I will say, though, the one thing I don't like is that it doesn't really seem like there's much of documentation on the chain here on how this all went. So it tells me either you're trying to hide something because you just didn't document it, or you just really never thought you needed to do that, which kind of raises an incompetency flag for me. Like, yeah, you're going to want to keep that chain here, and for no other reason than to cover your own ass.
Right.
That
like
way
that
you'd be
will
like,
end up
look,
in
we
workers'
did
comp
this.
at some point, guys.
Yeah. It's like you never thought like this could become an issue that you may raise a concern about it, and that you wouldn't want to be able to just be like, no, see, we first met with them here, then we followed up here, then we sent them up the chain to here, then they recommended this, and then we followed up there again. Like, that's really all it is.
Right. Yeah, not sure how that happens, but again, experience. So I don't know. Last thing, I mean, that the comment.
Yeah, I was going to say the pillow talk thing.
That's the last thing. I mean, I'm not getting a real convincing pushback that this person did not say that, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
What was the alleged things?
I'll read that. I'll read that segment of the article here because it's only a few paragraphs long here, so it'll be fairly quick to go through here. The first black woman certified to work as a baseball agent, Murray said she was subjected to insulting language from Harris and has yet to receive a formal apology. Murray said Harris asked her how she knew about the internal issues and asked for text exchanges with players. She refused to share them. Quote, that's when he said, now quoting Harris, well, I can't be responsible when players choose not to talk to me, but instead have pillow talk with you. Ending the quote from Harris. Now also ending the quote from Murray. Murray took that to be a sexist remark, suggesting intimate relationships with players. Paul Friedman, one of the Ballers' co-owners, told the Chronicle that Harris said the reference was referring to players talking among themselves. Friedman and Murray both suggested that the Chronicle speak to Harris, but did not return a text. But he did not return a text, he meaning Harris, did not return a text seeking clarification. Murray said when she expressed outrage about the term, Harris did not offer her the explanation the Chronicle was provided, nor has anyone else from the team. In case you're wondering, Harris would be assistant coach James Harris. Mm-hmm. That is the whole section.
I mean, it seems to me like it took a little while for him to come up with the story about what he meant. Yeah. I mean, look, there's some multiple pieces there. Asking for the text exchanges with players from an agent, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely not. What are you doing?
I mean, essentially, wouldn't that be client attorney privilege right there?
Yeah. And not only is it dumb, it's wrong.
So that's a private conversation. You're not going to get that.
One, I would say, when it comes to the excuse of what was meant, I'm sorry, I've only heard one thing ever related to pillow talk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless we're talking about the Lil Dicky song, which is a 10.5 minute long banger, by the way, strong recommend. Brain on some other shit, though. It's okay. Even if that was what you were saying, the excuse doesn't even make sense of, just like, why? Because you packed guys in so damn tightly that they're practically sharing beds at their housing. That, that just shows that you fully understood that situation. But beyond that, that is, even if you didn't mean that, you are speaking to one of the still too few women in sports. You're also speaking to a groundbreaker in the side of women in baseball. Perhaps if you cannot be trusted to get through an interaction, even a tense one, with that individual without accidentally, even if I'm giving you credit, saying something that makes it sound like they're sleeping with the players they're working with, maybe you shouldn't have a job. And I don't say that very often on this podcast where I'm like, someone should be unemployed. But what, dude? What?
That's the thing. And you're going up against someone too, who even if you don't have the respect for her, the family as a whole garners a lot of respect in the Bay Area. So what was the plan here?
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds like to me you got annoyed you didn't get what you wanted and then you lashed out like a child.
And here's the wild one. Even if she was sleeping with a player, it doesn't change the info. It doesn't change the fact. Like, it doesn't invalidate what was said. Now, not that she is, but I'm saying even in this situation where you were somehow correct in this
It
assessment,
does. Like,
you're
what's this, a
still
college
wrong,
bar
dude.
comeback? Like, what's this?
Get it together. Like, figure it out, bud. Again, get experienced people.
See, and again, it goes back to the coaching staff and not being able to spend the right time again, the right people.
Yeah. Yep.
And I kind of want to know though, like, whose camp is James Harris belong to?
Yeah, right.
Because it very much seems like there's a divide on this coaching staff. So, is he part of the stayers or the goers? Because it feels like he should be part of the goers. And like, if he's willing to do this to an agent that's following up on a serious matter, and that has connections to major local media, and probably to a lot of very important people in Oakland, people that your boss would like to be on their good side too. How long before he does something stupid to someone that doesn't have those same kind of connections or that same kind of influence? Right? Like, when is he, does he go too far? Or was it just he got annoyed in the moment, said something he shouldn't? And like, if that's the case, then tell him to man up and apologize for it instead of covering for him. He's an assistant coach. How important can he be that you're like, man, we can't afford to lose him. We got to cover for him. We got to go to bat for him.
I mean, Tom Brenneman should have kept his job if that's the damn standard we're using, guys. Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, Tom Brenneman,
he's a man of, he's a man of faith, and he just said a thing once, so it's fine. Like, dude, people lose their job.
Mic was on.
People lose their job every day for saying one thing.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Although, I mean, you bring up the one guy that the Pioneer League then turned around and hired.
Yeah, he was just trying to establish a trend, if I'm being honest with you. It wasn't random.
I knew what you were doing.
Thank you.
But, yeah, so any closing thoughts before we go to actual baseball discussion this week? Because I don't want to spend the whole time kicking Oakland, because we do that a fair bit. Right. I mean, they also take on the form of a soccer ball a lot.
Well, with this drama, once again, getting a free pass this week is the New England Knockouts. But I will emphasize on both fronts why it is very important to have experienced people making decisions and clear-cut goals and a clear-cut plan, a long-term plan, not just an ideal plan if everything goes right.
There's a lot of organizations that are getting some free passes. That's all I'm going to say. New England gets a decent share of this because, I mean, like, gestures broadly. I mean, like, come on. But there's plenty of other teams out there, and they know who they are, that could very well be taking this heat.
Yeah, man. Everybody be very grateful for Oakland.
Exactly.
If you're in that group.
With all the noise and attention they're drawing, you almost can't hear Chicago yelling at interns.
Oh, you can hear the sobbing every once in a while. All right. What do we got here? What's our next topic?
Staying in the Pioneer League, they announced their mid-season All-Stars here. It's really just a first and second team All-Star setup here. I'll run through them real quick here. Just read off the first team, thoughts. Read off the second team, thoughts. That's literally going to be it for Pioneer League talk. And not much is changing over there. And to be blunt, we're still like 2 weeks into the second half. So there's not much of a trend to establish yet. Going from there, though, first team, catcher Nicholas Klemp, sorry, I didn't see the L, Klemp from Boise. First base, Micah Yonamine from Boise. Second base, Josh Day. Oh, thank God, an easy name. Rocky Mountain. Troy Viola at third base from Boise. Boise getting a lot of names here. Good for them. Shortstop, Tyler Wyatt, Idaho Falls. Outfield, okay, all of these make sense. Adam Fogel, Missoula. Dave Matthews, not the band, from NOCO. And Jack Cohn from Ogden. Utility player is Brendan Ryan, not the, that Brendan Ryan, the other Brendan Ryan. DH Andres Rios from Grand Junction. Starting pitchers, there's 4 of them. Mike Peterson from Boise. Chase Jesse from NOCO. Christian Crosby from Oakland. And Alfredo Vila from Missoula. Relief pitchers. Why did we need 5 of them? Like, I appreciate you boys building on an actual team here, but my God, this is just ceremonial. Come on. Montana Quigley Glacier. Seth Pinkerton Glacier. Oh, hopefully there's no unionization going on in that locker room. Blake McFadden Boise. Connor Richardson from Oakland, and Jason Pineda from Great Falls. Closer is Ethan Swanson from Missoula. Thoughts on that?
I mean, a few snubs.
Right. Did any of those snubs make the second team? Just off the top of your head, real quick, because I'm sure you have it up.
Oof. Yeah, I mean,
up over
Curtly, Barrera, Ulch, Marine, or Marin.
Well,
yeah,
because I was like, we'll get to them in a second.
Yeah, but there were a couple. I mean, I like Valdez. I know he hasn't played a ton of games, but like he's a catcher or whatever. Castillo and Glacier. Kind of surprising to not see him get a look. Was he slashing 354, 439, 600 slugging over 60 games? That's kind of weird to not see him get a nod. Rivas with Rocky Mountain, he had sort of an interesting one too. 319, 362, 665 with 23 homers. I didn't see him listed anywhere. That's kind of questionable. Oh wait, no, he was there. Sorry, DH. I completely overlooked the DH on the second team, but still 23 homers. But that's kind of where I'm at, mostly on snubs. Everyone who got it, I think, is pretty deserving.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't like to be like, he shouldn't be an all-star. That's terrible.
Yep. Second team then. Let me just go through them real quickly. And catcher, Luis Navarro from Missoula. First base, Jackson Coates from NOCO. Second base, Patrick Chung, Missoula. Third base, Brett Barrera from Idaho Falls. Shortstop, Breland Marine from Yolo. Outfielders are Mike Rosario from Missoula, Trevor Halsema, formerly of Oakland, I believe Rocky Mountain now. Nick Utschel from Ogden. Utility is Christian Kirkley from Glacier. Stephen Rivas is the DH from Rocky Mountain. Cameron Rapetti from Yolo is one of these starters. The other ones are Owen Schartz. What a name, from Idaho Falls. Luke Malone from Boise, and Nick Parker from Missoula. Relief pitchers, Evan Kowalski, Boise. Kyle, I'm sorry, your last name's going to be hard, my brother. Pajasic?
Kyle Pajasic, I think I've been on Pajasic.
Pajasic. Okay, we'll go with that. He's Polish. He's definitely Polish. So that's going to be tough. Eastern European's always going to be tough. Or are we going to call Poland Central European? Or are we getting too in the weeds on geography?
Last night we had someone make a debut, and I think his last name was CYCZ. Sis. I was like, damn, all right. That's
a Polak right there. But any case, formerly Rocky Mountain, I believe he got dealt to Oakland, the Halsema deal. Christian Griffin, Ogden, Brendan Madaro for Boise, or Billings, my mistake. He is from Billings. And then Stephen Orderica from Idaho Falls, and then Chandler David from Oakland. Beware a man with two first names. Those are all the all-stars there. So I don't really have any major thoughts there. All that's fine with me. Yeah, I'm good with that too. All right, awesome. So on that note, let's switch over to the Atlantic League and talk about them for a while, because for a rare moment, they seem to be a beacon of stability. God help us. Right. Oh, good God. What are we doing? All right. Man, I love how every other year we alternate between, like, it's a good year, a lot of good organizations, everything's going well. Just two, like, miscreants that are ruining it for everybody. And this year it's just like, man, thank God Long Island's still doing their thing. Yeah. Speaking of Long Island, they're starting to rally in the second half. Starting to move, yeah. Here we go. They're making their move, but second half Stormers is holding strong, and York's still not easy. Everything else in that North Division we're going to ignore. They're going to get shoved underneath the rug where they belong. But, you know. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think about some of the highlights here. Jackie Bradley Jr. finally getting out of here. That makes sense. He was incredible. That last month, he was like batting like 500. Yeah. Get ready to learn Syracuse, buddy. Right. Hey, man, not that far of a travel, at least. Yeah. So first of all, and I missed this. This is something I need to go back in time on and watch it. But I saw benches cleared the other night between Lexington and Charleston. Boy, does that make sense after the way that series has gone this year. Yeah. Good God. No, they won last night. I think they're 14-3 against Lexington this season. Damn. Yeah, it's tough. And might even be getting worse than that. Might be.
beyond that, have you seen their schedule? How weird it is to start the half.
I have
feel like we didn't
not. I haven't
discuss
looked at the
this.
schedule in a minute.
Here, I'll give you the quick rundown. It's not long. It's they go. So they started with like Southern Maryland for like 6 games in a row, 6 games in a row.
Okay.
And then they went, oh wait, no, we're in June. We're back. Okay. July. There we go. So they went, Southern Maryland. Same thing. Then they went Gastonia and then Southern Maryland again, then Lexington, then Gastonia, then Lexington, then Gastonia, now Lexington, then High Point, then Lexington, then High Point, then Lexington, then High Point, then Southern Maryland.
So they just like keep to stay in the hotel, or?
I know, right? What are we doing here? I'm trying to think how many times they're playing Lexington this season. It didn't stand out to me right away, but they must be playing them in the low 20s this year. Oh my gosh. But like, that's a lot of times to play a bad team.
Yeah. They travel buddies or something? Like what?
Well, they're the two closest teams to each other.
Oh, there we go.
Like for that West piece. So I think they're playing 26 times, I think is what they're scheduled for.
All right.
And I think Lexington might be 14-3 to start this run with several blowouts. I mean, it's pretty rough.
Mm. Unrelated note, just because I wanted to go and check this on Jackie Bradley Jr.
Yep.
I need him to get like one more year of service time so he gets the pension.
Hell yeah, man.
Sitting at just a little over 9.
That's what he's going for.
Oh, absolutely. He's just like, I just got to hang around to get that pension. Because he can't quit at like 9 years and 54 days. You can't quit at that point. You got to kick around for another year plus so that way you can get that service time. But yeah, no, I mean, well, I should put it like this. Does all that playing in Lexington affect the way you view Charleston as a team?
They might be like 17. They might be 17-3 against them this year, by the way. I mean, how could it not? But also, I'm trying to keep in mind every team, like every league has a team that's just getting whipped up on right now. So, everyone's getting shots at Lexington. Yeah, they get a lot, but like other teams are going to play Southern Maryland more, and Southern Maryland is they're playing better right now, but they've had some rough moments this year where their teams are playing Hagerstown more. Staten Island's a mess right now. So, I mean, it's kind of been a revolving door. I mean, Southern Maryland's only a game better than Lexington to start the half. I think you're going to get a weak opponent somewhere. I mean, really what this makes more impressive, I think, is Gastonia and High Point, which is they're Lexington in to compare to Charleston's world is each other. So Charleston's getting bonus games against Lexington, High Point and Gastonia are getting bonus games against each other, which is not a bonus. That sucks.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to the gauntlet there, which honestly, that's why, and I hate to mention the rankings because they're kind of independent of the show, but like, that's why I put High Point up there a little bit higher than like a York or any of the other ones when I go up and do these things. I'm like, they don't have an easy-ish road, right? Like they
play Hagerstown a good bit. They play Staten Island a good bit. I think they're York is Lancaster. That's the thing. For me, by the way, why I push York up is the way they're just beating the P out of Lancaster.
I mean, like you dominate one team though.
I know, but even when Lancaster's hot, they just took another series against them. I was like, okay. I see what you mean. I'm not arguing with you. I think, strength of schedule wise, it's definitely slanted toward High Point and Gastonia. However, I don't think it's maybe as much as we would assume. I mean, in that, because also in the back and forth of that, in between all this Lexington series was Gastonia and High Point for Charleston.
I'm trying to see what else am I thinking about when I think of the Atlantic League this week.
Yeah, I'm looking back at my notes here too because I was so Oakland focused, but that High Point Charleston race is going to be good. I mean, it's going to be really good. I'm excited to see where they go with that because, I mean, Charleston's now half game off of them.
Yeah.
It's going to be good, man. I'm excited. We'll get a good playoff race, which is nice because we kind of didn't get one in the first half.
Yeah. We got a little bit of a home run derby run here. We got 4 guys within 2 home runs of each other for the home run crown.
Right. That's a good one.
Why are they taking advantage?
York's stolen base numbers are still ridiculous, by the way. If we're just talking random things that stand out. I mean,
yeah. Donovan Casey's still hanging around. He won't get the Triple Crown because he doesn't touch the power numbers, but he get 2/3 of it, which is impressive.
Yeah. York has 55 more steals than anybody else. They're at 238, and that's absurd. They've only been thrown out 22 times, by the way.
Here's the thing too. Like, I looked at Donovan Casey right now. I was just like, I mean, he hits nearly 350, so like, clearly it's not going to be too much of like a big time power hitter. But I'm looking like, yeah, 16 home runs in 80 games. Like, that's still far from nothing. Like, is he a power hitter? No, but he's not a slouch.
I'm just going to hop in with circling back on two related points here, and one's going to further back you up actually on something.
Okay.
One, we're talking about that High Point Charleston race. They got 13 games against each other, starting with 3 this weekend left on their schedule. Then High Point this is their remaining schedule. We'll talk about a tough slate here. Got Charleston for 3, Gastonia for 3, Charleston for 3, Gastonia for 3, Charleston for 3, Gastonia for 3. Then finally Southern Maryland, back to Gastonia, back to Charleston. And then they got Lexington for 6 to finish things. By the way, Atlantic League, get your schedule right. What are we doing? What is this? If you are, I mean, you can get caught in that rotation where you face High Point 4. Like if you're High Point, you might face Charleston 4 times in a row if they don't move the rotation around. I think that was Spencer Bivens where that happened the one year. Spencer,
I
think Bivens might have pitched against High Point 4 starts in a row or something like that.
See, like as a pitcher though, like how do you manage that? Because they know what you're going to throw.
Because you don't want to, go about it differently, but you almost, the way you would hold something back in the first turn for the order, you almost have to not show them everything first outing. Like you have to play a long game.
Yeah, like do you start to like mentally go, okay, like I know I'm probably going to get them at least another 2 times here, so like maybe don't throw them. Like I don't want to say don't throw your best, but like
or
maybe hold a little something back. Yeah.
Yeah. If you like throwing the splitter, in close counts where you're ahead, but you don't want to give up a ball, like that's one thing, but maybe start throwing it like only 0-2 or something like that, like to start things, just so even if it's a somewhat different look while you're not necessarily giving anything away.
Yeah. Like maybe you say, all right, normally I'd like to go more just outright heat, but maybe try to work more breaking in on that. So that way we can hide it a little bit.
And
like you
that's
have
where
to
it becomes
something different.
And that's also where baseball operations can be valuable, where you have to look at, okay, if a guy struggles, say he struggles on the like lower and upper outside of the plate, and you see him twice in a start and you go lower and then high to finish the at bat, like think about flipping that next time around. Like someone has to track that and make sure that you're giving a different look, even if it's sort of in a minor way. But
we need to put a 19-year-old in that dugout tracking pitches. Charting. Let's get on this.
Damn right, dude. Get me a nerd.
Get me someone with no social life and fast.
Get me somebody who has not had a date in their life, not because they can't get one, because they've never considered them an option. Where were we?
Any other thoughts in the Atlantic League before we go?
No, other than second half Stormers are interesting. I love that York's still giving them a battle, though. Hopefully they keep up with that. And I'd like to see the Ducks get in it just because it makes it interesting. But boy, Staten Island continues to struggle. That's a different conversation. We can do an autopsy on that eventually.
I mean, can't we just chalk it up to the usual Mark Minikasi second half performance?
I'm not sure I'm willing to do that yet. I think it needs a deeper look than that, but
on the surface, it looks like that. It looks like they got rated, and then this is what there is.
True. I'm trying to give them the leeway that I gave to Charleston, where Charleston got rated and they sucked for like a month and a half. Staten Island isn't quite there, so I'm giving them a little more time before I even start the autopsy, but it's definitely attention grabbing at this point.
American Association. How about those Milwaukee Milkmen? They thought we weren't going to find out, but we did. We seen how you boys are doing lately. Not great, lads.
Yeah, dude, that's
4 straight losses, 2-8
off here. Half game in the playoffs. Yeah. While Lake Country's run and longest win streak of the year, of course that helps because they've been playing Milwaukee.
I mean, like, here's the thing, man. I kind of want to give this. These 2 chicks are having a mid-off right now.
I mean, the fourth spot in the American Association. Yeah, that's kind of right.
Cleveland's going to.
They haven't been playing. They haven't been
out
playing
of these
Milwaukee.
guys.
My apologies. I was thinking of Gary, which is the ultimate insult for Milwaukee.
You see Gary's latest masterpiece, allowing a guy to score from first on a strikeout.
Yeah, that's bad. Can't do that.
Please, for the love of God, invest in a baseball ops department. Now, that's not going to prevent whatever the hell that was, but I'm sure you can find a replacement player to make sure it doesn't happen a second time.
Well, that, or I mean, how much that could even just be positioning, communication, awareness, like things like that. Like, I don't know. There's a lot that goes into that. I'm not going to bury the player straight up there, but like, there's a lot that could be fixed. That obviously
here's the thing, though. When you're a 25 and 46 club, you used all your rope.
That's true. Yeah, I guess so. Man, truly garbage fire.
But let's not sit here and pretend like Lincoln's going to escape this. You boys are barely any better. So settle. That's a team that's really been skating this year. I mean, Lincoln's been skating high.
Yeah, and considering kind of what we're picking up from watching them, this seems to be a budget and effort, not effort. Effort sounds bad, but budget and commitment, a budget issue in many ways. I think. I think we're very close to having to sort of hashtag about saving Brett Jody.
We're going to have the off-season discussion of, so if Brett Jody were to leave, where should he go?
Having a conversation about what his record would be in other places.
Imagine Brett Jody in Gary, Indiana.
I mean, I'm sure they would love that. Good God.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Talk about jackpot. Sorry, Lamar, but is what it is.
Lamar, you got a really bad, like this year should have been something totally different. You are also running at a runway fast, but more to the point. Gary's kind of a pitcher's park, ain't it? And Brett builds good pitching teams, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
So some would say that's an ideal match.
I won't argue with you. But is it? Does he want to go? My thing is, if I'm going to go, which it's starting to come out, is potentially a garbage fire. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go to something that's not established?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You wouldn't want to do it, and I don't think it will ever happen. But I am just saying, like, it seems like he can find guys that can hit for average, and in a pitcher's ballpark, that's probably what you have to go for because, hey, you're probably not hitting a lot of home runs. So if you got to start playing small ball, like, that's what you got to do.
Not wrong. I follow you there.
Yeah, especially if you have a good pitching staff, you can play that game. Sure, you're going to get burned every once in a while, but if you go ahead and put up 4 or 5 runs consistently,
dude, I'm with you. You don't have to convince me here. I feel you.
Convincing the doubters is what I'm doing.
A lot of that going on in life. I don't know. It's confusing because they have all the signs of the issues that we suspect we're seeing, but it's also, I'm not getting any like hard confirmations on how things are going. So it's all conjecture for now, but definitely something to keep an eye on, especially going into talk about a job that could be hard to fill with somebody quality too.
Oh yeah. Like that
is the makings of a bad PJ Phillips job. You know what I mean? Like he just ends up in crappy spots constantly. Like that feels like the vibe. What a mess.
But yeah, so let's stop talking about the bottom feeders for a minute and talk about those mid Wisconsin teams. Like Milwaukee, man, like your benefit's playing 1 fewer game right now. And like, oh wait, actually, dude, what would be horrific here is right now, what's the difference between Lake Country being a playoff team and not is that forfeit.
Oh my God.
Imagine that's the thing that puts you over. Keeps you out in the end.
I mean, of course it would be. That'd make a ton of sense, honestly.
Can I just say right now, I'll start the conspiracy theories.
I won't. You're not getting me to buy into that one. I don't think they're thinking.
Oh no, it's absolute BS. But like, let's be real. If you're starting
just like to be in on something early,
they're trying to keep us out.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Of course, by the way, the league is like, please don't have that happen. Like, I love looking at something where like the league is obviously like, oh God,
they're like, no,
please don't do this.
No.
Anyway, it's While I'm on that, it's I want to see. I missed the result yesterday in this event. The Canadian women, right? So did you track that? How the Canadian women's team got punished for a cheating scandal? They keep them in the Olympics, but with a 6-point penalty. Of course, you get 3 points per win, and they only have 3 games. They sweep their 9 games, so they make it. Okay, that's fine. You earned it. But here's the thing of like, the people who gave them the penalty from like the Olympics or whatever, like, oh God, please don't do this. Because of that, instead of having 9 points, which if you win your group, you would be playing someone who came in second in another group. They only have 3 points, are second in their group, despite being one of the only undefeated teams. So some team won their group and their reward was playing an undefeated Canada team the next round. They were the Olympic committee was watching, like, please don't, please. Oh God, it happened.
Like, all right, well, we got to rig this next one.
That's a tough scene, man.
So, other words, Milwaukee has an ERA over 7 for this past week, and I think that's really the root cause of the problem. However, it could also be the fact that they are currently rostering 3 guys hitting under the Mendoza line for the past week. One of them hitting under 100.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot happening here.
7 Ks and 23 at bats, man. That is. I'm just saying, for Jalen Davis' sake, man, like, we got to pick that up, brother. That's a bad week. It's a really bad week.
I'm just pulling a stat up real quick because the weirdest part is, I mean, like, 1 run tonight against
his batting average 30 points in a 12-day period.
I guess my point I'm getting to is it's not like they're playing like world beaters here. Like, King County's pitching has been just okay. And they put up runs against King County, to be fair.
Yeah.
They've been putting up runs. They've been giving up a ton of runs. But
Cleburne, it's a good team.
Spring 1 against Cleburne's a tough scene, though. Like, their pitching isn't what gets it done, really.
I mean, the choke job against Cleburne was bad.
Yeah.
You see how that one ended?
Yeah.
Walking how many at the end?
Yeah, I don't know. I need to pay a little more attention to the American Association this coming week. I've been kind of on a Pioneer League kick, so I got to check back in and kind of see what the hell's going on there. I've just been looking at like a lot of results, highlights, and like random players I'm looking at on one-offs, but I'll probably have to come back with some additional info on what's going on there, because it's worth investigating now while it's mid-collapse and not later when it's an autopsy.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the anybody breakdown, but in the end, they walked in a stupid amount of runs. I'll put it to you like this. Purnell started the 10th inning for them.
Mm-hmm.
He finished with 3 walks. Girl came in. He didn't record a single out. He allowed the winning run. He recorded 3 walks.
Oh, my God.
If we want to go through the last 3 pitchers, Johnson in 1 inning of work, 2 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 2 Ks, 2 walks. Purnell, 1 inning of work, no hits, 5 runs, 4 earned, 3 walk, 2 K. Girl, no outs. I still can't get over that. I guess technically infinite, right? Because he didn't record an out.
Yeah.
No hits, 1 run, it's earned, and he walked 3. What?
And it's tough from a manager perspective, because, like, what do you even do there? Like,
there's nothing Barone can do.
Guys out. It's just how do we end up here?
I mean, even like as a reliever just tossed into the middle of that mess, like, how are you going to refocus? Like, you have to. Don't get me wrong. It's not an excuse. Like, it's tough, so I failed. Like, that's not an excuse.
Yeah.
But, like, it's a tough deal to walk into. But, like, that's a lot of walks, man.
There are enough opportunities in the middle of that many walks to turn it around.
Yeah.
You've walked into people where you've thrown to the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah. Like, I almost would rather you take a delay of game ball and just reset yourself.
Yeah.
Than I would watch you just keep going out there and walking guys.
Take a moment to pray to whichever God you think might help you come up with one. Like, whatever works, dude. You gotta sacrifice a live chicken, you do your thing. But maybe take a minute, yeah?
Yeah.
Because frankly, you might as well not throw a pitch, because it ain't a strike anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Milwaukee, that's the problem. It's got to get sorted out, guys. It's a problem. A whole skid. Elsewhere, that whole division, I gotta be honest, it's not really moving me at the moment. Kane's kind of alright, but everyone else is just like, ugh. Claiborne just put this division out of its misery already. Can we skip to the part where Kane plays Claiborne and have a good series?
Right. Yeah, probably.
Flip side in the West, we're seeing signs of life from Kansas City, I think.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but not really enough to make me go, oh, there's something. Elsewhere, the bottom two teams, they're already dead. They just don't know it yet. Winnipeg looking decent. Fargo in a skid. Sioux Falls, they've managed to win 2 after a very bad week as well. So there's some hope for Milwaukee. You could turn it around at any moment. But the interesting division for at least, or an interesting race for the top of that division, at least.
Yeah, which is something. I mean, I guess it matters. You do get to pick your opponent, but I have trouble really being compelled by American Association playoff races right now. I'm really interested in if Sioux Falls can keep it going. They've stumbled a little bit, but I think they're a good team, but when they look bad, they look really bad.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, is that them playing with something because they're a pretty safe number of games up? Or is it, they're just a streaky team because that's a warning sign for the playoffs? And I wonder if they try to fix that down the stretch here. But that's something short of a deep dive onto them, but that's a team I'm definitely watching over the next couple of weeks to see if they can start to sort of solidify some things right now, because they've been in a weird little stretch, and it's not what you need. They got Winnipeg coming up. They got Lake Country coming up, so that's a bit of a test. And then they got a few against Milwaukee. So we're going to learn. We're going to see if they're serious or not. I don't see them falling out of the playoffs, but it'll be interesting to watch that their grip on the top seed.
Definitely. Only other note I really have for American Association: Ryan Hernandez, very sneaky Triple Crown threat.
Oh yeah, he's been really good. He looks really good too. I like watching his at bats.
Yeah, definitely. Do we know how old he is? 98 birthday, so he's going to be 27.
Yeah,
or 26 going to be. Yeah, October 15th birthday, so 25 going to be 26. Right?
Yeah, you're there. Not as hard, but you're there.
Damn. Why do they start putting numbers in these things? But yeah, so I mean, fairly youngish guy though. I think he may be worth a contract purchase.
I like to think so. I mean, right. I like a lot of what he's doing. I think he's a little bit stacked up in like a spot where it could be tougher to get out. Like, you know what I mean? Where there is a lot of depth out there. It's almost easier. I don't know. My theory is always it's easier to be an outfielder a lot of the time, because you can move outfielders around a little bit easier than you can move around a first baseman. I'm not saying he can't play other positions, but I'm saying
but it's hard for first base. Is kind of like that's where they stick you after they tried everything else.
Right. The optics aren't fantastic for trying to get signed.
Yeah. I mean, shortstop, third base is really where you want to be if you're an infielder.
Exactly. Anybody up the middle, you can kind of do whatever you need with.
Yeah. But in any case, he needs to find 30 points to win this Triple Crown. But
it's a lot, but they might come back to him a little bit.
Exactly. It's possible. It depends on what Lake Country's schedule is. So we'll see how that bears out, and if they get some more beneficial matchups down the stretch. Looking at it real quick: Milwaukee to end the year, Kane County, Chicago, Gary for 4. That could be a big one for them. Kane, Milwaukee, Winnipeg, Sioux Falls. And then Fargo. So that Sioux Falls series could really juice them. There's a lot there. They're playing in Sioux Falls, so that could help the cause. Birdcage could be helpful for that.
Right. I'll get you on track quick, but they can also throw your pitching off. So we'll see what they can hold up there.
So we'll see how that pans out. Let's wrap this up with the Frontier League.
Sure.
All right. So obviously New York's the one I want to talk about, but that's going to take a second to get through them. So is there anything else prior to that? Lake Erie is one that needs to be addressed. 7 straight losses and 1-9 in the last 10. Wheels kind of coming off a little bit. Also, Windy City stacking it together. Florence is going to be, I think, just short in the playoff race, but they are making a noble push here at the end.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Joliet's offense finally showed up. I know they're not really in the race, but like I could not take my eyes off of it.
Mm.
They
Joliet's about
had,
to fall below Evansville here. Tough season for Mike.
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to pull the streak that I think there was for a while there. I think they went 7 games without scoring more than a run in a game for Joliet. I mean, that was a wild stretch. I think their slugging was in like under 200 at that point over that stretch. I mean, it's been crazy to watch. I mean, they have had a bad offense throughout the season, but it was not like what we saw for about a week there. And lucky they have it. They scored. I mean, they're losing games, but they're scoring some runs at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you look at Joliet offensively, they're not the worst in the league, but you know, Windy City is always down there at the bottom, and Sussex is a whole other can of worms. As for like the top of the standings, I mean, Washington's really been impressive, huh? I mean,
it feels like they're legit.
I'm looking for reasons to not have them be for real, and I'm struggling. They keep answering it, and not like I want them to fail. It's not rooting against them. It's just I keep being like, okay, like you know, if I'm gauging who's going to make a playoff run here, you know, you got questions of teams, and they keep answering.
The only reason why they wouldn't go to a final here or win in a final is just based off of the past result of they normally don't get it done in the postseason, but it's hard to hold that against them when you change over so much. So
yes,
I still am wary about it, but everything points to being for real. Also, Gateway really stepping up recently and asserting themselves.
Yeah, they're not fully, but they've kind of removed a lot of the question. I mean, part of it is Lake Erie is a mess right now, and Schaumburg's not playing that great. So, I mean, Gateway really has just, I mean, they're hot right now, but they've also, you know, taken their opportunity.
I mean, yeah. Also, I mean, they got New Jersey at the moment, so that helps the cause too.
That it does. Yeah. Just looking at like who's been hot for them, but they just kind of got a lot working right now. It sounds dumb and oversimplified, but they're in a good spot where the schedule is sort of lined up for them in a good way, and they're just they're not losing games. They're winning the games they're supposed to win. That was what I was searching for. Good Lord, Ryan. They're winning the games they're supposed to win, and that's what so much of this is, honestly, man. They're not scoring an overwhelming amount. Yeah, I did not expect their pitching to be what it is right now. They really, I mean, sub 4 ERA as a team, and they're just, you know, I don't know. I'm partially surprised, partially not. I expect the Gateway to be this good, but I expect them to do it differently. I expect the pitching to be like just okay, and the hitting to be ridiculous. And the hitting's good. It's just not, you know, I'm not writing home about it, but the pitching keeps showing up and handling business.
Lake Erie, though, do we want to take a crack at that? Because they're really the last thing I want to talk about in the West. And then we could talk about Three Rivers falling off the map, but this is going to turn into a 3-horse race that I think the Boulders are going to get lucky and fall ass backwards into that spot.
Yeah, Boulders are trending toward being a team that gets absolutely murked in the first playoff. But
Ottawa's going to just handle them, and then Quebec's going to handle Ottawa, and then we're going to see Quebec first, whatever in the West.
Yeah,
because just to put the cherry on top of that prediction here, so that way I can go back in like a month and a half and go, I told you this would happen. Then we're going to have whoever comes out of the West having to probably be, I mean, if we're going to be level with ourselves here, it's probably going to wind up being Gateway and Washington. So after having to battle each other, whoever comes out of Washington Gateway is then going to be beaten up, probably stretch down the bullpen, get to a Quebec team that, quite frankly, had a relatively easy run to get to this point again. And then they're going to handle them probably in 5 games because it still will be a tight and hard-fought series. And then the West will bellyache again about how Quebec didn't have it hard enough and they managed to get through it. And then we're going to go, Quebec, man, they just keep doing it. Every year they find a way. And if it's Washington that falls in the second round, I'm going to go, see, told you, can't get over the hump. Basically the Carolina Hurricane.
Well, yeah.
Wait for it to happen. It's going to happen.
I'm more focused in on this stretch that Lake Erie's been involved with, honestly. I mean, just everything's going wrong. Like the pitching isn't there, hitting's not there.
I mean, the hitting hasn't been there all year. It's just now the pitching disappeared.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just checking a stat real quick. The thing is, they're getting hits. It's just they're not bringing. There's no timely hitting. Like they had over a stretch where they had the 7 losses. They scored 4, 8, 11, 13, 19 runs over 7 games, and that's really helped out by 6 runs they scored in the last one. But in that, I mean, they had a game where they scored 4 runs on 14 hits. They had a game where they scored 1 run on 8 hits. They scored 10 runs and they scored 2 runs on 10 hits. Like just weird stuff like that going on. And I don't really know. A lot of strikeouts. That's probably it. Rally killing a lot of guys. And I bet if we really dug into the roster, we could pinpoint a couple people who are really the prime offenders. But
yeah,
I mean, that's the importance of having a complete lineup. And at least if you're going to weaker hitters, guys who put the ball in play. Like I hate to be like the stereotypical on that, but like put the damn ball in play. Yeah, just a lot of strikeout guys, honestly, in this lineup. Like your second most strikeouts in the league, 604 so far. That's going into today. Yeah, that won't work.
Because when you build your team a certain way and then that doesn't pan out, then it's going to turn to an issue. And the problem with doing the strikeout route is you never know going into the year how many innings you're going to get out of those guys' arm. You're hoping it's enough. And you go, it's 96 games. If we spread it out evenly, then it can work. And I'm not saying that they're done now. Maybe it's just like, okay, we hit a lull. But even still, it's hard to get going once you hit that little bit of a bump. And it'd be one thing if you hit that bump and you're in the East and it's like, okay, realistically, there's not much of a playoff race to go on here. Out West, there's a race. It's going to form up. Like, yeah, Schaumburg's not at their best right now. But let's just take a look at that rather quick here, right?
Sure.
Schaumburg's, 2.5 back. Then you have Florence, who's coming on strong. Now, Florence is 5 back. That's a tall hill to climb with about 30 or so games left. Having to make up a game a week, essentially. I don't think that's going to happen. But if you keep sliding and Schaumburg keeps playing 500 ball, all of a sudden it becomes in play, right? At the very least, Schaumburg is still an ever-present threat.
Right.
So you can't really afford to do that. And it's a bit of a problem. And I do, kind of hate seeing it because I'd like seeing Lake Erie do well. It's been a minute since they've done well. And it'd be nice to see a second-year guy and Jared Lemieux get it together in a market that needs a little something going. So to have it kind of start to fall apart does suck. But again, it's been a 2-week stretch of this happening. So you still have time to right the ship. And this is, we're in August now. It's only division games from here on in. So you have your shot at making up games, but you also have your shot of throwing it all away. So it's on to them now to make that decision. Is it going to be throw it away, or is it going to be step up and let's get going?
Yeah, you're right. I don't think this is like, this team is done for sure. I think it's, now we have to watch them. And keeping in mind, too, the big thing is, yes, making the playoffs, but also it's making the playoffs in a way where you can line up your pitching. It's just so important, especially if you're going to go in the wild card and you have a 1-game playoff. So that's a lot of what the issue at hand is. It's just, you were in a position where you could kind of waltz in and get things set up and be a real threat and line up everything the way you want it. You're starting to really risk that opportunity, if not more.
I don't disagree with any of that. I agree with it. But in the case of Lake Erie specifically, I think just making it is good enough for them. Because I don't think they were ever really going to be a deep playoff
You're
team.
right. Okay, that's fine. You're right.
So, also, for a 1-game wild card, where they were always going to be, there's only so much lining up you can do, right? Like bullpen's rested and you want the starter you want. So yeah, you can line that part up. But beyond that, and in a winner-take-all game, let's not sit and pretend like it's not all hands on deck. Like the only guy that isn't going is the dude that pitched yesterday.
True, but it's nice to have rested arms.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, like in the context of the situation, I think the strategy element takes a backseat to just like what it means to get here.
I'm with you. We're arguing on semantics at this point, but I agree on the general there.
New York. Let's argue about that, and then we'll call it a day.
I don't know if there's anything to argue about.
I mean, man, it's getting bad. 5 straight. Tri-City's all of a sudden right in the rear view, and it's not even like the Trois-Rivières is that far back, right? They're 2.5 back, and then you have one that's 1.5 back, and then you have the minors that are like across the pond. They're not a factor.
Yes, of course.
So the Boulders, I think of, and I say this fully knowing they're only 2 games out of being in second place in this division. They fully went ahead and shot their only bullet at being in first place. That's not going to happen now. That's gone.
Mm-hmm.
They're very much in danger of not hosting this playoff game if they get it. And I just don't really think, at the way things are trending at the moment, I don't think they're going to be hosting it if they even get there. I'm genuinely beginning to be concerned about them because they haven't looked good really since June. July has been a slog for them, and I hate to say it, but it's like they took advantage of their schedule and now they're showing us their true team.
Right. And I don't know that Trois-Rivières gets it back together in a way where they threaten. However,
the struck midnight over there.
Tri-City, we are still unclear on what that team is, but what we know they are is close enough to be a problem for the Boulders. It's a team that gets hot and cold. It's definitely a situation where they could get even remotely hot and just absolutely ruin the Boulders. Right now, hot for the Boulders is like going 6-4 over 10 games, right? And then hot for Tri-City so far has been like winning 8 or 9 out of 10. So that's the ceiling, that is an issue. And both of them are capable of losing 8 out of 10. So that kind of all balances out on that end. But that's the big vulnerability, I think.
Neat fun fact. You know who's playing each other this weekend?
What you got?
Tri-City in New York.
What a world.
So that's an important little series, ain't it?
That sucks.
Bonus points here. Frontier League. Fix your website. Let me pull up the damn schedules with ease.
Oh
again.
My God. It's so ridiculous.
Because this is making it really hard to cover your league, guys. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yep.
It's a minor thing, but it's extremely important here. Let's get that together.
Cranky.
At least the Boulders and the Valley Cats let me pull up a printable version of the schedule. I can't search, but at least I can find things quickly. Just looking at the August dates here, because that's what matters here. Going into the weekend, we have at New York. This is Tri-City's perspective. Then they have a 6-game homestand, 3 Rivers and New York. Okay, that's an important week.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go to New England for 3, go back to the Boulders for 3. And then they have another 6-game homestand, 3 versus New Jersey, 3 versus Ottawa. The Ottawa one could be very important as well. 3 versus New Jersey. And then they wrap it up with 3 versus Sussex County. Realistically, the Ottawa series and then the 3 New York series are really where it's going to be challenging. Everybody else, they should be winning those series. Quite frankly, 4 series on this board should be sweeps if we're being honest with ourselves here on paper. Sweeping's hard, but I mean, like New Jersey, Sussex, and New England should not be a real challenge for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the flip side here, if we're looking at from the Boulders perspective, obviously Tri-City at home for the next 3, Sussex on the road for 3, Tri-City on the road for 3, a random one-off Monday game against New Jersey. They play every day on the week of the 11th.
Fun.
Then 3 versus Ottawa, 3 versus Tri-City. Those are all at home. They go on the road to play New England for 3, then come home to play Quebec for 3, then hit the road again for Ottawa for 3, and then end the year with a 3-game homestand against New England. So, notably more difficult stretch there to end the year. It is bookended by what should be 2 sweeps, but I mean, Quebec and Ottawa could be a tough roll of the dice here. There's not too much that's really winnable. I guess we can call it 3 winnable ones, or 3 sweepable ones, rather, in the case of Sussex, New England, and New England again. But, that playoff race all of a sudden just got a lot more interesting looking at those schedules.
Yeah, and I do like how many division games the Frontier League does end their season with. So
I've always been a fan of that.
And this is why. But, hey, when you have even numbers of teams in each division, that's what you can do. Aim for it, everybody. Oh yeah, man, it's going to be a good run, even if we get one of those playoff races, which is like, wow, neither of these teams really want to win this, which I hope that's not where we're going. It feels like we could be. But I choose to remain optimistic here until proven otherwise.
Yeah, let's let this actually cook, guys, right? Like, let's not have this decided by the time I get back from North Carolina. Let's let this cook into Labor Day weekend.
Have some fun. What's the rush? Let's
run with this. I was really expecting this whole Frontier League bit to be me yelling at the Boulders for getting swept by Windy City, but it has certainly not turned out that way.
Ah, man, still got some drama.
I think that's actually a pretty good place to drop it off at for the week. Lots of happenings, mostly off the field, but a decent amount on the field too, I would say. And hopefully we can go a week without talking about Oakland next week.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure Oakland hopes the same.
Well, they have the power to do that.
One might think.
So that's where we are for the week. Let's do some plugs and get out of here.
Sure, man. Any Ball Nation on Instagram, Twitter, Hold on, I got this. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and podcast platforms, we'll call it. And yeah, that's what I got. Got finally getting some new content rolling this week. Thank God. Work will stop moving me places. I made them promise not to send me anywhere this week, so exciting.
I'm about to say, because I've really been enjoying your Monday podcasts, man. Really been getting me through the work week.
Bro, I'm dying. I've had like outlines done, and then just like my phone rings. I'm like, well, okay.
Have you tried answering the phone in Spanish?
Yeah, actually, then they just hire me for like less money, and then get in trouble with the government and have to pay like an $80 million fine.
Next thing you know, they start shooting at you in the Appalachian Mountains.
That'll happen. Hey, man.
Exactly. You have to story to those ATVs and hightail it out of there. Next thing you know, standoff with the cops. Whole big thing.
You hate to see it.
Love to see it, but
just another manic Monday.
Which I appreciate you calling it Twitter and not X.
Dude, come on now. What are we doing?
Chewing through the wires. But Anyball Pod on Twitter. Anyball Report everywhere else. I will guarantee you there will be nothing new from me outside of this show for the next 2 weeks. I guarantee you that. So have fun with that, guys. The next 2 are going to be a ride because I'm going to be very much checked out.
Oh, but I'll carry it as usual.
Remember, this is my show.
Is it?
I mean, it's been 282 episodes. I'm the only one that's been here for all of them, so.
What does that say?
Until next time. Don't forget, Ryan doesn't post on Mondays. Also, don't forget to play ball.